and welcome to AngularAir. My name is Jeff Welpley. I am your host today, and I am here with the ever wonderful and ever bald Justin Schwartzberger.
Hey, what's going on?
So we have these vegetables, Brocky.
Hey Jeff, how's it going?
Good to see you, Mike. And then, of course, Olivier, cool guy, Combe.
Hey guys.
Getting ready for Angular Connect's 80s party night.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, also we have with us Josh Munt joined us, who is a organizer of Angular Connect, but he is on a somewhat bad connection. So we're going to see how this goes, and if he can, he's going to throw his commentary in about things as we kind of go along the show. Welcome, Josh. How are you doing?
Hi, guys. Sorry about the connection.
All right, that's good.
Hopefully, I'll be here throughout the show. Otherwise, I'm sure you guys will be able to take over.
Yeah, I think it sounds good without the video, so that should be good. So today, we're basically going to go over a couple things. We've kind of been off for a little while. I had some problems actually last week, so I'll get into that. But I wanted to talk about a couple major things going on in the Angular community, and then you'll get into Angular Connect as well. But first, I like to periodically go around the panel and kind of see what everybody else has been up to, because I think that gives a good indication of what's been going on in the Angular community as well. So Olivier, let's start off with you. What have you been working on? What have you been up to?
We're almost ready to publish our website in Angular 2. We have like 2 weeks before the release, 3 weeks maybe. So I'm working hard on the loose ends and the compiler, lazy loading with the router and stuff like that. So yeah. Working with the nice Angular 2 stuff that you can do to optimize your website.
Are you're using Angular Universal for part of your app, right?
Not for this one. For another one, yes.
That's great. And actually, this touches on one thing that I wanted to talk about later, but I'll bring it up now. That I feel like a lot of people, Olivier, are in basically the position that you just described, that they've been kind of building something for a little while, and now that Angular 2 is officially released as of what's been a week and a half ago, something like that, a week ago, people are moving towards at least getting things in production if they have not already. Are you guys seeing that same thing? Are you guys starting to hear from people complaining about things breaking, or I don't know, saying how good things are? What are you guys hearing?
I kind of see things as being a trickle down right now. So the big release happened sometime last week, updated my application to the latest release, and I was happy and excited. And then I slowly noticed all the dependencies that I had of the different libraries as they were starting to roll their changes up to be the latest, to get all of those things updated to the latest. So I see that being a trickle down. I think a lot of libraries, at least the popular ones, have already been updated to final, which is nice.
Yeah, you know what lags though? Actually, that you just reminded me of, Mike, is like the tutorials, like the actual written blog posts and other things. There's actually one guy who contacted me today, about the CLI actually, because he was following a tutorial from like a month ago that was written, and then he's like, "Wait, this isn't working at all," and he's like totally confused. I'm like, "Yeah, they've gone through some changes."
Yeah, that's one of the things that we've been struggling with, well, not struggling with, but working towards, is improving our docs as we're getting ready. Obviously, Angular went final, but the CLI is not. But as we're trying to work towards that on the CLI to try and get the docs up to speed, and this way all the documentation reflects the latest versions that are out there.
And then Justin, what about you? Are you getting any apps in production for Angular 2 stuff?
Yeah, so we've been along this journey since, alpha, actually since Angular 1X. And so we just kind of rode it all the way along, went through the changes and have been adapting. So we've kind of just been on the same track. One of the things that I'm working on right now is really trying to figure out this NGRX story in an application and how it plays out into, for like this Redux type of pattern and store and your state, and how it plays out when you traverse through components, and how to make the decision of, do I have this kind of controller component that works with the store and then uses inputs and outputs to flow things down to child components, or do I have the child components or every component work with the store and access the slice that they need from the store, and then dispatch actions and react to changes in the store with observables and stuff. So we're really trying to figure out that pattern.
Are you talking about like the dumb component, smart component thing?
Yeah, to a degree, in terms of how, if you take on something like this Redux or ngRx, like we're focusing on ngRx, right? And we say we have a store for our state, and we have slices to the store. You have this chunk of this part of data or that part of data, and you want to really have that pattern of saying, I want to dispatch actions, right, to the store, that then I can have this flow of where all my actions go through, and then this change of the state that then everything reacts to. And look at it and go, I could create these dumb components per se that take inputs and outputs, and they then can do the change detection with their input change. And then, but then they're also you kind of make the decision, do I have outputs from those things and say I have a click button on it? Do I make an output that says my button was clicked, and then some other overlaying controller component go, oh, you were clicked, so now I'll be the one that dispatches the action? Or do you go all the way down to the child component and say, hey, that button's clicked, that thing will actually dispatch the action rather than the flow up? And
it seems good in theory, like the whole thing of dumb components, where in the true sense of like the way it was originally intended, it's my understanding that you would bubble up those events for like, the thing that's handling the click is actually at a higher level, right? But I think this thing you probably are alluding to is the fact that it's kind of annoying to do that sometimes, because it's just like all this extra cruft, and like, you just want to do it right there, right?
Well, and then if you're 3 layers deep, you're just bubbling up. You're actually wiring up to 3 different events and bubbling that up, and that's all you're really doing. And are you getting a benefit out of that? We kind of looked at it and go, well, the benefit is you kind of have a component that maybe is a little more testable and a little more isolated, that you can work on it. But could you still get that even if all that thing took in was the store, and all that component did was dispatch actions and then maybe subscribe to store changes so that it can react? And it has that, and then you could mock out the store that you give it, and it still allows you to work on that individually, sort of thing. So
yeah, I'm super interested to know how you guys eventually rest on that continuum of, trying to do things the alternative. So yeah, definitely let me know about that. Olivier, we sort of went in a different direction there. What else was going on for you other than getting your Angular 2 app into production?
We had the same problem with the store and the events and stuff like that. So we decided to use a really small store, not ngAir, which is, in my opinion, too complicated for what we want to do. What else are we working on? We included the hot module holodeing, and that's really nice to do. If you have Webpack, it's easy. I just updated to Webpack 2 and TypeScript 2, which was just released like 15 minutes ago. So that's nice. And we are working hard on D3.js graphs. I think that Austin talked about it last time. We've been working on a library for Angular 2 and D3. So yeah, I'm deep into this.
You have all sorts of stuff going on, Olivier. Holy cow. And you didn't even mention preparing for AngularAir at Angular Connect.
Yeah. Look at this camera and this mic.
Oh my God. Wait, you do have a mic. I was gonna say, yeah. I was gonna bring one. Oh yeah.
No.
All right.
We can try both and see.
Yeah. Well, that looks pretty fancy though.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. Anything else going on, Olivier?
Yeah, I've been working with the doc team for Angular to release a guide for IATN. it was supposed to be released with Angular 2 last week, but we had a bit of a rush at the last minute, so we decided to postpone because we need the AOT guide. It's still in process, so. But this should come out soon. It's going to be cool.
Cool. Looking forward to that. All right, Mike, what have you been up to? I've heard that there are some changes in the CLI recently. What is going on?
So yeah, there's been a little bit of things in flux. For a while, probably since about July, most of the main development has been on a Webpack or an @Webpack release to NPM. So if you install just Angular CLI, it would pull the System.js version, which hadn't been updated since July. As of early last week, that was updated. So everything that was happening and all the fun, exciting things with Webpack in the @Webpack release or the tagged release on NPM has now been moved over to the default install. So I'm happy to say that the build process and everything for the CLI has moved over to Webpack. And it was, what was it released? East time, it was about 10 o'clock at night. Angular went final. And I think within half hour, an hour, we were live with a version of the CLI that supported the Angular 2 final. So while the CLI, like I said, is not final, we are supporting the Angular final release. Or I guess the 2.0.0. I guess it's not the final release. There's going to be a lot more releases, but the initial non-beta, non-release candidate release.
Very cool, very cool. So, go ahead, Justin.
And I got to say thank you for that. I mean, a lot of people are appreciative of the fact that, that was one of the concerns. Okay, as soon as Angular goes final, like, are these other tools and stuff going to be in line and we're going to get them at the same time? And so to see the CLI all ready to go at that point was super awesome. So thank you to everybody that worked on that. Appreciate that.
Yeah, there were two of us that had pull requests ready to go that night.
Awesome.
It was just a matter of choosing which one, because a few other versions updated, not just Angular Final, but also Zones got bumped and a few other things. So keeping everything in sync and getting things ready to roll.
Cool. What else has been going on with you, Mike, other than the crazy world of CLI?
Same thing as Justin, trying to figure out best practices and how to make things not only just efficient in terms of code efficiency and performance, but also how to best architect our solutions to be able to make sure that the different events are handled in the appropriate places, whether or not, like Justin had mentioned, whether or not you're going to bubble things up or handle things down in lower components. And I think that basically boils down to how specialized those components are going to be. Is it going to be a generic toolbar button or something, or is it going to be a specific toolbar component where you can dispatch directly from those components? It depends on how specific your components are and how reusable they are.
Yeah, it's funny. I was at the NativeScript conference last week, and they did a lot of Angular stuff there. And I'll talk more about that conference in a minute, but it was interesting that one of the most highly questioned and discussed things was data management, was how using either Redux or NGRX, in different ways, state management, all that stuff of getting your data and how you handle it in your app. I feel like it'd be great if we could fast forward a year and go through all of the inevitable ups and downs and issues, and someone finally figured out the ultimate answer, and then we could just use that, right?
Totally.
Unfortunately, we have to go ahead and build our stuff, just trying to all feel that out at the same time. We're all trying to solve the same problem, right? Why can't I don't know. I'm confident that eventually there'll be a best practice that we all kind of do the same thing, but clearly everybody's still in this phase of reaching and figuring that out.
Yeah, and I really like the style guide team that's working on the style guide that's on Angular.io to take that leap and try and come up with best practices before or as you're trying to create applications at the same time, to work through what are the best practices and what can we recommend, knowing that things are going to change, whether it be how we set up routes or how you organize your components, and then the whole thing with modules dropping relatively recently. How to best use those, how to structure your application using modules. So I
what do
think
you guys
there's a
think
lot
about that?
that's figured out still.
So clearly they made the big change in RC5 to add ng module, and one of the main reasons was to be able to organize your code in such a way to allow for lazy loading and some of the other dependency stuff that they wanted to implement. But do you guys view that overall as a positive change, or more of like an annoyance that you had to it broke all your code?
I think that I think it fits well. I think it plays out well. My buddy Jamie and I talk about how it kind of almost felt like, and he brought the point up that it feels like we had modules in Angular 1, and then in Angular 2 we didn't have modules, and now they're back, kind of just like Angular 1, sort of thing. So there's that interesting caveat. But I think one of the things that played out with it that was a little bit challenging is to take that moment to really wrap around, okay, this kind of dictates a difference of how components are used within other components. Like, how do you flow that in? Like this, now this thing has to be imported in and in this declaration for this module, and then it's available there. Do you have a concept of something available to the entire application if you just registered at this level? We had that global, like the core directives and stuff like that, that you could add multi to with the providers and then get them throughout your entire app. And now you have to bring it into each module that you want those particular components to flow through. But then the whole concept of where the providers live and where those get registered in the dependency graph, and how they all, no matter what module you're at, you're defining things that are for that module, except for providers, which go into this global space, except for when you're lazy loading, then they get their own instance. So understanding and figuring that stuff out, and then applying that to an application you already have written that doesn't have the modules, and refactoring that and make sure all that stuff is playing right, took a little bit, but I don't think it was too bad. And I think it is a pretty good place that we're in with it.
Yeah, go ahead, Olivier.
Yeah, as a developer, I like the new modules. I think that they bring a current a structure to the application, but as a library developer, I find them really annoying because I get a lot of issues of people who don't know how to include your lib, how to make it work with lazy loading, with AOT and stuff like that. I keep repeating over and over and finding new cases where they don't really work as you can expect. For example, let's say that you have two modules with different roots. Sometimes if you don't declare the module in the right order, then the root for the router can be overloaded by one of the modules. And if you lazy load, then it depends which module is loaded before the other one. So it depends where your application starts, and stuff like that can be really difficult to debug.
So you're saying that we can run into the same types of naming issues that we ran into with Angular 1?
I don't know if it, yeah, actually, yeah. For example, one of our lib exports the command module, and some people had a problem because they already imported it in another module and they had a conflict with the name. So yeah, I think we still lack some experience with the modules. So we'll see.
The thing I find most interesting with the ng modules, it sort of illustrates in my mind some of the pure essence of Angular in relation to like how it differs from other frameworks, in that, the goal there is understandable, that like it enables these things that are super powerful, like to be able to very easily do lazy loading is like awesome, because if you ever tried to implement that yourself, it can be like a super big pain. And just being able to create that sort of structure is like super powerful. But the tail side of it is that like this type of thing where in order to do that, the trade-off is that you sort of have to adhere to like an Angular API, which at first, like Olivier is sort of pointing out to, you need that learning curve to get over, right? And that sort of trade-off. So that's always that thing that you hear other people who are like, let's say in the React world, that's like maybe, or other frameworks where it's more down to like raw JavaScript, that you don't have the much same power. You have to do everything yourself, but at least you like there's no magic going on or whatever. So it's like it's good and a bad. I think. I mean, I'm not saying that in a good or a bad way. It's just like a difference, and to be honest, most of the time I prefer the extra power because it's just a matter of getting over that hump of like learning the API, and then you have that ability, which is great. I don't know. Do you guys agree or disagree? Shrug
Yeah,
the shoulders.
I think that, I mean, this whole power thing, that's one of the aspects of Angular as a platform is it gives you the power to do a lot of stuff, right? But now you're kind of making a bunch of architecture decisions, right? And with all that power, you actually have multiple ways you can architect things and still make them work. So now I think a lot of people are searching for, well, what is the best architecture way that I should do this? And who's going to tell me, is there somebody going to tell me that? Or do I just discover that on my own? And do I just start using these powers in these different ways and I shape it one way and that works. And then I say, I need to solve this case. Oh, now I need to kind of architect it a different way. I have all of the tools to do everything I need to do, but what is the best way to put it all together?
Well, I do think from that, like that will be something that there is a bigger emphasis on, right from the start with Angular 2 that wasn't there with Angular 1 in terms of like trying to create convention, trying to create sort of standards. In Angular 1, there wasn't even a style guide for the longest period of time. And now we have a pretty strong one. And with the CLI, we're starting to kind of codify some of those common best practices and standards so that, it's not just a matter of, this unwritten rule about you should do the things this way, but it's actually kind of baked into the framework itself. So I definitely think that some of that will start to work out just over a period of time. And then Justin, was there anything else other than building your Angular 2 app that you've been up to lately?
That's probably the most of the stuff, and digesting all this stuff and really kind of feeling the same relief that I imagine the Angular team feels about this journey of finally having it, final, stable, released out there. Again, there's so many of us that took that journey with them, that rode with these code changes, that experienced that. And, just as much as all of us as developers wanted that release out here, we're also all kind of, excited and relieved that, hey, that day is here, and we get to now kind of just forge ahead and feel good about now. Let's make these decisions. Let's make these final decisions in our app of how we're going to write it because we know that now that the API is final, right?
Yeah, I mean, one interesting thing with that I thought about it a lot of times before, and we can move on from this subject, but to bigger and better things. But it does always remind me of like the whole thing of like just shipping it, like because when all of us are building products, there is always this tendency to want to kind of keep on building, like almost to infinity, like to keep on improving things, and it's so hard to draw that line just to like push ourselves to put out there an imperfect product. And I don't know about you guys, but I felt like how there's such and I mean, I'm not saying that they did anything wrong because I know that the community is so demanding. And when you put something out, as we're seeing now, as you put something out, for official full release for everybody to use, you put yourself under a certain amount of scrutiny. And so you have to like make sure that everything is kind of in line and whatnot to a degree. So I mean, I'm not sure whether there could be anything different or whatever, but I'm just saying like I feel that in my own products that I build, that like, that fighting that desire to keep building and making it perfect versus just getting it out there and moving forward.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's out there now, so.
Yeah, hopefully some of the negativity that's come out of the amount of changes that occurred through the release candidate phase will hopefully start to die down. That people were complaining about the struggles of, well, there's a lot of changes. There's been a whole lot of deltas from one RC to the next, and to be able to keep up with that. But the one thing that we need to remember as a community is if you're dealing with pre-release software and you're dealing with the bleeding edge, is that it's actually you that's doing the bleeding. I heard that quote a while ago, and it's so true. If you're going to try and use something before it's actually fully cooked and released, there's going to be growing pains with that, and you have to be ready for that if that's something you want to take on.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. So, Josh, the other big news, other than the release, is next week is Angular Connect. So I would imagine that pretty much everything you've been doing has been kind of preparing for that. What have you been, specifically up to the past kind of week or so? You there, Josh? Oh, he might have fallen asleep. Well, I'll pretend that he said that he's been trying to figure out, with all the people complaining about how many good sessions there are, and they're all happening at the same time. Because that was the first thing that I wanted to ask him about. What is your plan? Like attending these different sessions, because literally I'm looking through the schedule right now, and they have like not only like a dual track of talks, but they have like some workshops that people are running, and then office hours and QA. I literally want to split myself into 3 and then like be able to go to all of these. What's your plan for what you're going to do during your time there at the conference?
So I didn't even look at the schedule because I know that I will end up in the hallway filming people and stuff like that. So I would probably watch the videos later. But now that you mention it, some of these workshops look really interesting. So we'll see if I have the time, but I don't know. I'm really waiting for meeting all the people that I like. See Carmen dance at the party and stuff like that. It's gonna be cool.
Yes, the 80s party, which is what you kind of brought those classes on to begin with. It's going to be 80s themed, and I'm sure some Bon Jovi, some other stuff. Hopefully, Josh, is there going to be karaoke? Because 80s karaoke is the bomb.
There will be karaoke.
All right. I think that's a requirement from now on at all Angular conferences.
I love karaoke. It's going to be great fun.
Can you guys give us a sense for those that haven't gone to Angular Connect or don't really know too much about it? Like what is the level of this conference and what does it mean? I mean, can you give us kind of a sense of that?
So the idea of the Angular Connect conference was to be more than just another place where we have great speakers. We actually wanted to create an environment where developers can actually properly connect. And so this year we're going even further than we did last year. So last year we had the 2 main tracks, and then we had other things going on. This year we've actually tried to level it out. So we've actually got 5 tracks, which we're giving as a sort of an equal playing field. The 2 main tracks, again, will be live streamed, so people who aren't able to make it will still be able to see the great content we have on the 2 main tracks. But then for the people that are actually able to come, we've got 3 extra tracks. Track 3, which is going to be mini workshops, which are going to run over the 2 days. We've got track 4, which is our office hours space, where
how about you help me?
Sorry?
You there, Josh? You cut out for a minute.
Oh, sorry. Where did you get up to? So we've got track 3, which is our mini workshops, which are going to run through the 2 days. And then track 4, which is going to be our office hours space, where you can connect with the speakers and other experts around. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yep.
Okay, and then also a track 5, which is going to be some hosted panels of Q&As with different focusing around different topics like architecture, user interface, testing, mobile and progressive web apps, and security, I think. But if you go onto the website, angularconnect.com, we've got a full schedule there, so you can plan your day. And again, if you're not able to make it, those first 2 tracks, 1 and 2, are going to be live streamed and also available to watch almost straight away afterwards as well.
Yeah, about the Q&A, I just want to tell to the viewers and people who are listening to this, if you need if you have a question that you want to get answered, just ask me or ask at AngularAir, and I will do my best to get the answer for you from one of the speakers, one of the Angular team. I'm gonna try to get your answers and film this with my new camera. So don't hesitate.
Yeah, so that's another thing we're doing at the conference. We've got lots of extra stuff happening around even those 5 main tracks. So AngularAir are going to be on site, going around, like Olivier said, doing Q&As. And also we've got like chill out spaces. The idea is to just try and create an environment where the developers can connect in whichever way they want to and build up those kind of relationships and discussions, which are the real value of being able to come along to Angular Connect.
So I do have one request that, you know, it is like extremely hard to to decide on a lot of these tracks, like which one you want to go to or whatever else. The worst, in my opinion, is right at the end of the first day, at the same exact time, is Shai's talk and Carmen's talk. Carmen's talk, because I've been already talking with her about it. I'm like super interested or whatever, but it's killing me that I can't go to Shai's talk, because as good as it is, Shai's talk watching like on live stream or on video, being there in person is like the best. So like you guys are killing me with this end of the day. What I suggest, we put a hold on Shai's and then have it run during the 80s contest. I don't know. I'm just brainstorming here, but figure out some way to make this happen.
The issue with scheduling is always a challenging one, and as best we could, we didn't put things that the same people would want to see against each other. But when it comes to Shai, you know, you really can't do much about that. You're going to have to put him against someone. But I think that on the whole, like we said, they're being live streamed and available to view straight away afterwards. And we believe that obviously if you're there, the real value of the conference is to actually maybe even do the other tracks and to watch these things afterwards, because you know the opportunities to have Q&A and office hours with the speakers, I think it's really valuable.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, one thing this reminds me of is that I did notice in some of the speaker information that you guys sent out is that there's going to be like a green room like there is, you know, last year, which is useful. But, you know, I did, I got sort of indirectly admonished by Joe Eames after last year. So I didn't really say something directly to me, but after the conference, you know, he was sort of complaining about the people who just stayed in the green room the entire conference and did work. And I realized that like, that's basically what I was doing because I had so much going on at that time. I was just trying to keep up or whatever. I sort of learned my lesson there, and like I do think it's an important thing, you know, for the people that are speaking to be actively, even when it's not their Q&A time or not like the time they're speaking, to like go out and talk to everybody in the community. Really try to can. So hopefully, I
think it's also.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's valuable both ways. I think that people in the community appreciate that contact, but I think also speakers and the people, you know, from the team really appreciate being able to get feedback and insights from the community as well. So it's a great opportunity, I think, for both sides.
Yeah, especially knows that they won't ask when is the release of Angular 2.
Exactly.
Seriously. So Josh, last question for you is like, I'm curious, what is the thing remaining? So obviously we're a couple days away now. There's got to be something that's still remaining that you guys are like super worried about that you're just hoping that it still comes together, or is it the case that like everything is all done, you don't have to worry about anything, it's like piece of cake?
Well, we have a great team. We work with White October events who are super organized. And on the whole, I think we're actually really, really good and in a good space. We had panic last year with the gift, which was the Google Cardboard, which didn't arrive until the last day. So we've learned from that, and we've got a really cool gift we're giving away. I won't give too much more about it, but it's something quite exciting that we're giving away this year. But it's all arrived and all ready to go.
Is there a hoodie? Because I remember Pete at ngConf saying we will get the best hoodie, and it will be even better than the one from ngConf. Maybe that's a
we have a very friendly rivalry with ngConf, and we're always trying to up one another. But I think that's actually quite healthy because it pushes us to try and get the best conference. In terms of hoodies, I'm not 100% sure whether our one is better than theirs, but we do have a hoodie for the speakers and some really cool T-shirts for the people attending as well.
Cool.
Yeah, that is one thing. When you go to these types of conferences, you have to like go with like a half-packed bag because you get so much swag. Yeah, like at least 20 T-shirts and all sorts of other stuff from the different vendors and sponsors. So that's usually a lot of fun.
We're also organizing a hackathon on the first night alongside the party with Progress. That's created in NativeScript. So you can see details of that on our website as well, but that's quite exciting, and there's some cool prizes coming with that.
Cool, thanks Josh. And speaking of Progress, that's actually a good segue into the next thing I wanted to discuss, which was that this past week on Monday and Tuesday, I actually was at the, Progress is the company that owns Telerik, and Telerik is the company that builds NativeScript. And NativeScript had there was a conference for NativeScript in Boston this past Monday and Tuesday, and it was a lot of fun. So there was about, I think 120 people or so. There was a workshop day where we all kind of learned NativeScript if you haven't learned before, and then a number of different talks. I gave a talk, and a bunch of other people gave talks on just building mobile apps and other related topics. And sort of the interesting thing, and part of the reason why I wanted to kind of bring it up, was really interesting to see that they, even though NativeScript isn't necessarily tied to Angular, they have definitely made a kind of decision, whether it's subconscious or not, to really focus on Angular. All the talks, all of the workshop, everything was with Angular 2. And it was really cool, to see actually quite a number of people who didn't know Angular before, didn't know NativeScript, kind of went there to learn, and in the workshops, seeing how quickly they could pick up both. And the kind of question, I actually ended up being, for part of the workshop, even though I was there as a kind of participant, a little bit of helping with some of the stuff, but I pick it up pretty quickly and see some of the power with both for building kind of native apps, with JavaScript through trying to popularize the idea of calling it straight up like Angular native, just like React native. So there was some people good feedback to that. Some people that sort of into the idea, because there are equivalents, and even though it's a different technology, same types of things we're using it for. So anyway, it was a great conference. Great feedback. Definitely encourage people. I am a big fan of progressive web apps. That should always be like a first option, and something like Ionic, for a lot of companies just totally makes sense. But in my mind, like if you are, because of the needs of your business, want to build a like native app, in my mind, it just makes sense to JavaScript and use something like NativeScript or Angular Native. So, have any of you guys tried NativeScript before?
No, I haven't.
Well, what do you?
I talked to them at ngConf and kind of tried to get an idea of it and see that, but I haven't played with it. Are those tracks from that conference online anywhere? We could watch them. Your talk.
They actually, so they haven't done it yet. They are going to put them online, but unlike I think with they live stream everything and then kind of get the videos up. From what I remember, pretty quickly. Most people, it takes like a little bit of time to like do all the background work and editing and whatever. So they're going to get that up soon. So I'll add a link when it does go up. Their page and tweet it out and all of that type of stuff.
So with NativeScript, as I understand, it's its own kind of template language, right? Wrapped with Angular for the back end of it. Can you kind of give a brief overview of that?
Yeah. Actually, it's a good question, and I should explain that. So the key part with NativeScript is, the way I think about it is that there's sort of two parts to it. You're building essentially an Angular app, an Angular web app, the same exact thing, except for two things. One is that for the template, like you're actually it's almost as if you're using custom, like it'd be the same thing as if you're using a UI widget library. Like you're using somebody else's like elements. Like, so you wouldn't actually use divs at all. Like you would, it's as if you use all the custom components from somebody else. And it just happens to be that those components render to natively, on mobile devices. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so kind of like how material design has its components that you can use. Kind of a similar scenario, like you would do an MD button, but in this case, you would do something that's a custom element from NativeScript.
Yes, exactly. And in fact, because it's set up that way, that's how Nathan Walker, who is an amazing developer, Angular developer, and he's been on the show before, to take the syntax, like the actual NativeScript, and then have it work to the web, because at the end of the day, all it is just naming. You name like a list box, let's say. So a list box, that's a thing, like a component defined in NativeScript, which underneath the scenes they are actually generating like binding in the mobile view. But if you use Nathan's library, he takes that same exact template syntax and just renders it to the web. So that theoretically allows you to build an app with the NativeScript bindings that can render either to native mobile or the web, which is pretty powerful. But the one other thing, I mentioned two things. The first thing, the template, and then the other thing is obviously the native specific APIs. So if you want to use the gyroscope, you want to use anything like that. But generally speaking, like, so this is one of these things that I'm like super interested in, and like I do believe I haven't gotten to the point of like actually having my app do all of this yet, but like especially I'm so inspired after like going to a conference that there is definitely a way to build this like holy grail app that you build it the same way that you can run in all these different places, including native mobile, including the web. I even think, I was joking with Nathan that we'll be able to take a NativeScript app and render it on the web server using Angular Universal. I just gotta put some work into that, but which will be a kind of funny hodgepodge of different technologies altogether. But be a good blog post, I guess.
So
yeah, you just make the time for that, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. What were you gonna say, Mike?
with the NativeScript, essentially they're custom. I know they're not specifically components as there would be with the web, but using their native controls. Is the binding syntax all the same? So the brackets for properties and the parentheses for events. So it all looks the same. It's just different tag names.
Yep, exactly. And I mean, like when you bootstrap it, you are bootstrapping it with their bootstrap, because ultimately during the bootstrap process, they are using a different rendering engine in the same way as Angular Universal uses a different rendering engine. They're using a different rendering engine. That's what takes the template and like outputs it to the actual, mobile display. But yeah, no. But as far as bindings, all that works exactly the same.
So in theory, you could write the same component with the same TypeScript behind it, supporting it to handle the different events, property setting, data calls behind the scenes, and just replace the view that has different bindings with different controls for the rendering of that.
Yep, exactly. And so what GetHuman, like my company, is doing for this is we are actually going to be building a native script app that we are going to have to run on the web as well. And so, obviously we'll use like Nathan's library to like do the rendering on the web and kind of polyfill it with, any stuff, anywhere where there's gaps. But then in addition, for the kind of native specific API stuff for dealing with the kind of camera or gyroscope or whatever, where there's no equivalence on the web, that's just a matter of like, and this will be part of this imaginary blog post that I'll probably never end up writing, which is to, you would just end up kind of abstracting that out using, DI swapping, so that mobile, it uses that mobile functionality. If it's on the web, you have some sort of alternative mechanism, it depends on what would you be trying to do. But using DI, you can basically very easily switch it out to extract out specific APIs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, is Nathan's library, is that something that's a platform change, where at that level in your main TS or whatnot, before you bootstrap, you're starting this other platform like you do with the native script versus the browser platform, or you do this other one? And so you're really like at that point writing all your components and everything in this native script for its template, and then you're switching out at that level of, am I in a browser? Okay, I'm going to do this other platform that handles the native, or I'm native, so I do the native script platform, right?
It's the same exact thing. Bootstrap is different. Bootstrap is different for each platform. And then any differences lower down in the tree, you push it down to a leaf level and have some sort of abstract class sitting on top of it that you kind of can switch between the two.
Cool.
So anyway, so that's basically going to be what I'm focused on, among other things. Actually, so for my own updates, like it was really just going to be that. And the one other thing in addition to like that sort of craziness in world of multi-platform apps and native script and whatever is, really getting into machine learning. It's one thing. So I was super excited that Carmen is going to be talking at Angular Connect end of the day, the first day, about, the stuff that she's been doing. And I couldn't wait. So actually I did a hangout session with her a couple of weeks ago. We got into like this. She's basically built, I won't steal her thunder or whatever, but I don't think she mind to say that I think she tweeted it out that she built her own kind of neural network, which is like amazing. I can even tell you like how crazy it is, like somebody who's just starting out to do something like that, which I'm sure she'll like totally underplay. So like right now I'm telling you, like when you hear her talking about this is something that like people do not do normally. Like people will utilize TensorFlow, which is like a software built by Google that has like all the machine algorithm neural network software kind of built within it, or like a cloud service like Amazon machine learning or something like that. Our own is just kind of wacky. Just because it's so complicated, you really have to know it in depth. And so if you don't have experience, if you're not like this scientist, it's like really onerous getting into it. The math alone is just, for me, like my eyes glaze over. And that's, I'm interested in like everything, but like that math is really tough. But she was able to tackle it and build something amazing. So I'm super excited for her talk. And I'm not doing anything nearly like that, but I am trying to actually utilize machine learning, more of the cloud service approach in Amazon machine learning to implement with our existing apps to add some kind of intelligence. Have you guys gotten into any AI or machine learning stuff yet?
I haven't, but I know that we use some of these at work because we work with what we like to call big data. So you really need some intelligent thing to filter through all of this. But I haven't touched this part.
Yeah, I think that's true. Go ahead, Justin.
I've thought of it from a writing perspective in stories that I've worked on and thinking about, how, from my programming logical side, like how does that truthfully play out in a fictional world, right? And it's intense to take your mind down that, it's really a spider web of, but then learning the spider web, and it's crazy. It's really cool though.
The thing I'll just end on this, just so that I don't make everybody's eyes glaze over when you talk about this type of stuff, is that I do think that I found is that there's still a pretty high level of complexity once you get into it, where most of the people that are utilizing the machine learning based technologies out there are kind of the data scientist level, people who basically do that as their main job. And you don't find many kind of web developers, like people who are just building applications. They just look at it as like hooking to an API, right? I feel like this is like such an important thing, and the technology is starting to get better and better and kind of get simpler from like the interface standpoint, that it's sort of inevitable in my mind, and something I was talking with Carmen and Christoph and some of the other people in the community about, that like it's inevitable that I think programming in the future, like even if you're an app developer, this is going to be like a core competency skill that everybody's going to have to learn to some degree. Just like you have to like learn the quirky intricacies of the DOM, you sort of have to know some of these like core fundamental intricacies of machine learning, at least in order to be able to interact with it in an effective way. Just because it's going to be so powerful, I think it'll eventually be baked into a majority of the apps that we build. So at least non-trivial apps or whatever.
Which is an interesting thought to bring in, being that one of the recent episodes that I was part of with GraphQL is kind of detaching yourself even more so from the back end rather than getting more involved, of allowing the front end to dictate what data you're getting back and how that's being presented, and kind of thinking about the back end less, whereas this is more thinking about the back end more.
Well, look, I totally get that. I think that there's this fantasy, and maybe it's not fantasy, that basically this idea of just being able to isolate yourself and just focus on one thing, and there is some power in that for sure. I don't know. I just never prescribed to that way of thinking, because I've always found that even though it's harder, when you do have people working with you that do understand kind of the full stack, there's just the things that you are able to create are just like orders of magnitude better. Even though I understand how it's in some ways nicer, this idea of kind of isolating yourself to just know web tech and nothing else. I don't know. I guess that's more of like a philosophical thing.
Yeah, that's a much bigger show. And then, I mean...
Yeah, it sounds like another show.
Yeah, I mean, while it's good to have those different skill sets of the different areas of technology, it's also not a bad idea to specialize in one particular area where you can focus and get down to the nitty-gritty in those details and really hone that craft, but at the same time be aware of what else is going on.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the ideal for me is that you are a specialist in one thing, but that you are aware of these other areas, aware enough to be able to intelligently you aren't kind of isolated. I guess the thing that I fight back against is this idea where it's like total black box, that you don't have no idea whatsoever what's occurring on the other end. And that's where I've seen it lead to trouble. But nobody can be expert at everything. I mean, you got to focus on one thing that's your main thing, which is why I'm saying that right now I feel like for machine learning, it's a total black box. For even like Olivier is working with it, it's a black box to him. I mean, he admitted to it, right? I think it's got to move a little bit more in the direction of at least having some awareness. I'm not saying you're an expert all of a sudden in these like crazy math algorithms, but that you at least understand what's going on enough to intelligently kind of interact with it in a better way. But anyway. On that note, we are at the top of the hour. Let's quickly get to picks. Mike, actually, you're still here. Why don't you go first?
I am, yeah. I had to drop the video. Got kids running around me. But I have one pick. It's a library that I started to use called ng2dnd, which is a drag and drop library, which is rather simple implementation to be able to drag and move things around your application across components and throughout your application. Specify what you can drag, where you can drop it, and you're off and running.
I had a 10th level cleric once that was the coolest thing ever, and I was so sad that I lost my my hit sheet. Or maybe I'm using the wrong terms. It's been a long time. But
yeah,
I
thought that was going to help us roll some d20s. I was getting kind of excited, but this still sounds cool. Drag and drop, cool.
Yeah, it's very helpful. I really need it as part of my application rather than having to write that natively. There's a nice little library out there that is concise, and that's all it focuses on. And as of yesterday or today, it's actually one of those libraries that got updated to 2.0, so it's a 2.0 final.
Josh, what do you got?
So I'm going to do a last plug for Angular Connect. So just to let you guys know that if you aren't able to make it, we're going to be posting the link to the live streams on the homepage of our website on the day, so you can click there and watch the live streams, and also we'll link back to the videos once they're live as well. You can view the schedule on the website as well, so that's angularconnect.com.
Cool, thanks, Josh. Justin.
So I've got another ng2d star thing, ng2d3, which is a library for doing D3 plus Angular 2 composable, reusable charting framework. Olivia knows a little bit about that. Austin as well, and gPanda, and several other contributors. So it's pretty cool for doing charting. You guys should check that out. And then my other pick is on Angular Zone on the webinar. Just the other day, Pascal was on there talking about ng module in Angular 2. And I think he just did an amazing job of really breaking down the metadata in there, the usage, all the way down to lazy loading of them and routing and all this stuff. And just in a concise period, covered a lot of great information of teaching what the ng module does and how to use it. So you guys need to check that out too. That's my other pick.
Angular Zone, what is this? I'm looking at their thing. It looks like it's a video podcast about Angular.
Yeah.
Has some good content.
What I think is going to happen, after this podcast is over, I'm going to talk to my boys about maybe combining efforts here. I like what they're doing. I think we should be doing it together. We'll see about that. All right. Olivier, what do you got?
So my pick is for the Doc team. I've joined them to work on the French translation of the documentation. I've been working on the internationalization game, and I can tell you that they work really hard every day to bring you good quality guides and docs for Angular 2. So I really wanted to say thanks to them, even if they are kind of invisible because they don't sign with their name. I can tell you on Slack that they're talking all day about how we can make ng module more understandable, and how you can use the latest concept of AOT and Webpack and CLI and stuff like that. So I really want to thank them for their work.
Yeah, I definitely second that. Those guys are awesome. Okay, and I just have one link. There was a bunch of back and forth, speaking of Slack, on the GD Slack about the big rage is obviously progressive web apps, well, one of the big rages, I guess, and a lot of guys giving talks on those. So we noticed there was basically one GD in particular that put together a great GitHub repo with just like a bunch of progressive web app resources. So if you want to know more about progressive web apps, this is definitely the place to do it. I will include the link on that. It's his username, GitHub username is Hermanth, Hemanth, and it's awesome-pwa is the repo name. So I'll post that as well. So we are going to be live at Angular Connect next week, and then we come back and we have a big schedule planned for the next like 2 months that I'm going to probably will not publish until after Angular Connect because there's so many other things going on right now. But there's a lot of great shows coming, so definitely watch out for that. All right, great to see everyone today. And hopefully, if you guys, anyone listening is at Angular Connect, definitely come talk to Olivier, talk to me. Olivier wants to have you on camera. So
yeah, I'll bring my AngularAir t-shirt. If it's not
yes.
too cold, you can find me like that.
All right, guys. Have a good one. See ya.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.